a specific medical treatment.
Okay.
But everything you read online, every forum you check, it tells you that it is virtually impossible to get.
Right, the classic internet doom scrolling.
Exactly.
Mm.
People are constantly saying it costs thousands of pounds, the waiting lists are endless, and you only qualify if you have an unbelievably rare, life-threatening condition.
Which is incredibly discouraging.
It is. So you probably do what most people do.
They write it off.
Yeah, you give up. You assume it's just not an option for you. But then imagine finding out that none of that is true anymore.
Not even a little bit.
Right. Imagine discovering that you can actually manage this entire prescription right from a secure app on your phone, choose exactly what you need from a digital menu, and have it legally delivered to your front door the very next day.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. When you think about it, you go from viewing something as a restricted, almost mythical luxury that requires jumping through a million hoops to a highly accessible, everyday consumer healthcare experience.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly the journey we are taking today.
Sounds good.
For this deep dive, we are looking at a really fascinating 2025 YouTube video from a creator who goes by Medicated Mate.
Great source.
It really is. The video is simply titled, How to Get a UK Medical Cannabis Prescription. And our mission today is to cut through all that internet noise, bust some seriously outdated myths, and lay out the exact, surprisingly accessible step-by-step reality of how the UK's medical cannabis system actually works right now.
Because the gap between what you probably think is true and what is actually happening on the ground,
It's massive.
it's huge. And what's fascinating here is where that gap actually comes from.
Right, let's talk about the history a bit.
If we look back to 2018, that was the year medical cannabis was technically legalized in the UK on the NHS.
But there was a catch.
A massive catch. It was only approved for a remarkably small, highly acute list of conditions.
We're talking about things like severe epilepsy, right?
Exactly. Severe epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, really specific acute cases. So the general public internalized this very specific narrative.
Basically, yes, it's legal, but it's only for the absolute most severe, rare cases.
Exactly. That created a lasting public myth that it is basically impossible for the average person to access.
I mean, I assumed it was still incredibly locked down.
Most people do.
But the core aha moment that our source brings to light is that the NHS is not the only route.
Private clinics have stepped in and completely opened up the landscape.
Medicated Mate just shatters that old narrative right out of the gate. Let's start with what we'll call the eligibility myth.
Okay.
Because of that 2018 NHS ruling, you naturally assume you have to be a death's door to qualify.
Right.
But the creator points out that through private clinics today, the list of qualifying conditions is massive.
It really is. We are talking about chronic pain, anxiety,
OCD.
insomnia. It is a completely different ballgame than what the NHS was prescribing for back in 2018.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally shifts the narrative of the medication itself.
How so?
Well, we're moving away from cannabis as a last resort treatment for rare acute illnesses and repositioning it as a management tool for everyday chronic struggles.
That's a great point. Think about how many people deal with anxiety and chronic pain on a daily basis.
Millions.
Right. By opening the eligibility to these conditions, the private clinics have transformed the potential patient base from a tiny fraction of the population to a significantly large demographic.
And of course, the second you realize you might actually be eligible for something like this, your very next thought is usually,
how much is this going to cost me?
exactly, if it's private health care in the UK, it must be only for the wealthy.
The cost myth.
Yes, the cost myth. I mean, think about any private specialist. A single consultation can run you hundreds of pounds.
Easily.
But when I look at the numbers Medicated Mate laid out, I actually did a double take.
They are surprising.
I was like, did I read that right? His clinic is only 50 pounds for the entire year.
You read that perfectly.
Wow.
He uses a specific clinic called CB1, and yeah, it is just 50 pounds for the whole year to cover the clinic fees.
That's almost nothing in the grand scheme of private healthcare.
And he mentions that the broader market is highly competitive right now. Some clinics might charge something like 10 pounds a month.
Okay.
And there are even clinics out there, like one called Medicated, that offer free initial appointments just to get you into their system.
Free.
Free. It completely dismantles the idea that you need thousands of pounds sitting in the bank just to get a foot in the door.
It's wild to think about. And once you're in, he says the delivery fee is around 6 pounds.
Which is standard for any next-day courier.
Right. And for the actual flower itself, He notes that he has bought 10 grams for 45 pounds, and he's also bought 10 grams for 85 pounds.
Depending on the specific strain or quality he is looking for.
Exactly. So it ranges, but it is entirely manageable.
It's comparable to or even cheaper than the black market in many cases.
And I really want you, the listener, to think about how often outdated information on Reddit or internet forums stops us from exploring completely valid medical options.
That's a huge problem.
The creator explicitly mentions that he had to stop listening to people on forums who either hadn't actually gone through the process themselves
Or did it years ago when the landscape was entirely different.
Right.
It highlights a real danger in crowdsourced medical advice.
Yeah.
The internet has a very long memory.
It really does.
When regulations change rapidly, as they have with these private medical cannabis clinics, the dominant narrative online often lags years behind the on-the-ground reality.
Yeah, if you are basing your healthcare decisions on a Reddit post from 2020, you are operating on obsolete data.
Absolutely.
So let's look at that on-the-ground reality today. Medicated Mate literally lays out the playbook for how this actually works.
Step by step.
Step 1 is what he calls the baseline requirement, which we can think of as the 2 treatments rule.
This is crucial.
What exactly counts as a treatment here? Because I initially thought that meant you had to have tried 2 heavy-duty pharmaceutical drugs.
That is exactly where people get tripped up. To be eligible, a patient must have already tried 2 or more conventional treatments for their condition.
Okay.
But there is a vital nuance here. 2 treatments does not necessarily mean 2 different pharmaceutical pills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, our source clarifies that it could be one type of medication and a course of talking therapy.
Like CBT for anxiety.
Exactly like CBT. Furthermore, these do not have to be recent treatments.
That's interesting.
Think about your own medical history. You might have been prescribed something 5 years ago, found it didn't work, or had terrible side effects, and you just stopped taking it.
Which happens all the time.
Right. As long as it is documented on your NHS medical record, it counts toward that 2 treatment threshold.
Which perfectly leads into step 2.
Getting the medical record.
Getting the record to prove it. It's called a Summary of Care Report, or SCR.
SCR.
Right. Now, think about the last time you try to get paperwork out of your GP.
Usually a nightmare.
You'd expect this step to be a bureaucratic nightmare, right? Endless phone queues, filling out forms in a waiting room.
Just waiting weeks for a letter.
Exactly. But the creator points out it is surprisingly easy. You can literally just email your GP, ask for your SCR, and request that they email it back to you.
He says it really is that simple.
Just an email.
Once you have your SCR in hand, step 3 is where the patient really takes control of the process.
I love this part.
The source highly recommends a specific resource called MedBud.wiki.
MedBud.wiki.
Yeah, this is essentially the ultimate comparison tool for patients. Instead of flying blind and just picking the first clinic you Google,
Which is what I would have done.
you can use this site to check different private clinics, compare their consultation prices, see which pharmacies they use, and look at the exact formularies they have available.
And for anyone wondering, a formulary is essentially just the official menu. It's the catalog of approved medications a pharmacy actually stocks. Having a website that just lays all of that out brings radical transparency to a process that, frankly, used to feel very shadowy.
It empowers the patient.
Completely. And once you've picked your clinic, checked the prices, and submitted your SCR and your ID, you get to step 4.
The consultation.
The consultation with a doctor. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This consultation is usually just a video or phone call.
Super convenient.
Very. But the most vital piece of advice Medicated Mate gives for this call is about honesty.
This is so important.
A lot of patients seeking a legal prescription are already self-medicating using the black market. Their natural instinct, especially talking to a medical professional in the UK,
Is to lie.
is to lie or downplay how much they consume out of fear of getting in trouble.
Which is a completely understandable psychological reaction. You are dealing with decades of prohibition conditioning.
Of course.
But the creator stresses that you must suppress that instinct. You need to tell the doctor exactly how much you are currently using.
Wait, if you downplay your usage to seem more acceptable, what happens?
The doctor will naturally underprescribe you based on what you told them.
But if you're totally honest about a heavy usage history, does the doctor just hand over a massive amount of cannabis on day 1?
No. That seems risky from a medical standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Not exactly how it works. Prescriptions are dispensed in 10-gram increments up to a maximum 28-day supply.
Okay.
And that's based on what you and the doctor agree you need. The risk of lying is that you get prescribed too little, you run out halfway through the month, and you find yourself right back on the black market trying to make up the difference.
That makes total sense. Plus, you don't even have to buy your entire 28-day allowance all at once.
Exactly.
If you're prescribed 30 grams for the month, you could just buy 10 grams now, see how it goes, and order the rest later in the month through the clinic's app.
It's very flexible.
So being completely honest about your full needs only protects you. It doesn't force you into a massive upfront cost that you can't afford.
And this raises an important question about the rules of the game, so to speak.
Right, because it's not a free-for-all.
No. While this is legal medical cannabis, it is still highly regulated, and the way you consume it matters immensely.
This brings us to a major legal caveat from the source.
You cannot legally smoke the flower.
That is a detail I think would surprise a lot of people.
The packaging explicitly says, do not smoke.
To stay within the bounds of the law, the flower must be consumed using a dry herb vape.
Which is a big adjustment for some.
Now, we need to be clear here. We are just reporting on his experience. We aren't endorsing this as a miracle cure.
Of course not.
But, according to Medicated Mate, this vaping rule is far from a negative.
He loves it.
He could not be more enthusiastic about it. He calls the dry herb vape a total game changer.
Yeah, he says it is 100 times more tasty than smoking.
100 times. And he says it provides a much clearer high, and it's incredibly effective for his symptoms.
And for people who don't want to deal with flour at all.
He points out there are alternatives on these formularies, like THC pastilles, which are basically sweets or sublingual oils.
The vaping requirement is actually a fascinating intersection of public health policy and legal drug consumption.
How do you mean?
Look, doctors obviously hate smoking.
Yeah.
Setting a plant on fire and inhaling the smoke creates carcinogens. It's just terrible for your lungs.
Right.
So the medical world naturally wants to separate the actual medicine from the harms of smoking. By mandating vaporization, the system allows the therapeutic delivery of cannabinoids without the respiratory damage associated with combustion.
That makes a lot of sense when you frame it as a medical treatment.
But an even more complex intersection of law and daily life is the issue of driving.
Oh, the driving dilemma.
Yes.
If you've ever looked into this, you know this is probably the biggest source of stress for anyone consuming cannabis, medical or otherwise.
Absolutely.
The creator talks about how, before his prescription, the introduction of random police swab tests gave him endless anxiety.
I can imagine.
Every time he got behind the wheel, he was terrified of a random stop ruining his life.
Just having it in your system from days ago could flag a test.
Exactly.
Okay.
But getting the legal prescription completely cured that anxiety.
Because the legal landscape fundamentally shifts the moment you have that prescription.
Really? How so?
It is perfectly legal to drive with THC in your system in the UK, provided it is from a legal medical prescription.
Wow.
If a patient is swabbed at the roadside and tests positive, they simply produce their prescription and they are clear.
That is a massive relief.
However, and this is the critical catch that everyone needs to understand, you absolutely cannot drive if you are impaired.
I really like the analogy the creator uses here to explain this, because it grounds it in something we already understand.
Codeine analogy.
Yes. He compares it to being prescribed codeine. Imagine you're taking prescription codeine for a bad back.
Very common.
You can legally have those opiates in your system, and you can drive to work. But if you are visibly impaired by those opiates, if your reaction times are shot and you cause an accident, you are breaking the law.
And as Medicated Mate's doctor warned him, if you drive impaired, your car insurance will not cover you.
Exactly. It really comes down to personal responsibility and understanding how your specific medication affects your body.
And understanding how the medication affects you is much easier when you actually know what the medication is.
Which you don't on the black market.
No, you don't. This highlights the stark contrast between medical-grade cannabis and the black market.
This is a huge point. Medicated Mate talks about the massive relief of knowing exactly what he is consuming.
When you buy on the black market, even from a decent source, you are essentially guessing.
Mistakes happen. You don't really know the exact breakdown of what you are getting.
But with the legal medical route, everything is rigorously tested. You get exact terpene breakdowns.
Right. And for context for you listening, terpenes are the organic compounds that give the flower its specific aroma.
but they also play a massive role in the physical effects of the plant.
You get those exact terpene profiles, and you get guaranteed genetics.
He shares this really surprising fact from his own experience to prove why this matters.
Yeah, about the THC percentages.
Yeah. He found that an 18% THC strain had heavily sedating effects on him.
Put him right to sleep.
Right. But a much stronger 29% THC strain had the complete opposite effect. It made him alert.
That is a brilliant, real-world example of why precise medical data matters so much.
It proves that the THC percentage isn't everything.
Which is what everyone focuses on.
Exactly. There's a concept called the entourage effect, which is how THC interacts with those specific terpenes and other cannabinoids to dictate the actual physical response in your body.
So it's a synergy.
Yes. Without a detailed formulary providing those breakdowns, patients on the black market are basically throwing darts in the dark.
Hoping they hit the right target.
The private clinics provide the hard data needed to actually dial in the correct medical treatment for your specific symptoms.
But here is where we have to remember that even with all this data, all these sleek apps and exact terpene profiles, it is still a healthcare system run by human beings.
If human beings are flawed.
And humans have their personal quirks. The creator shares this wild, highly specific story that perfectly illustrates the human element of this system.
The Tyson story.
Yes. He went to his doctor and asked to be prescribed a specific strain he had researched on one of these formularies. The strain was called Tyson 2.0.
Which is, of course, a strain famously associated with and branded by the former boxer Mike Tyson.
Exactly that one. And his doctor flat out refused to prescribe it.
That's refused.
Refused. But here's the kicker. It wasn't for any medical reason.
Wow.
The doctor didn't say, oh, this THC percentage is wrong for you, or these terpenes will make your anxiety worse.
Then why?
The doctor refused because he morally disagreed with Mike Tyson as a person.
You're joking.
Nope. He simply wouldn't put his signature on a prescription for a product associated with him. Can you imagine going to a standard pharmacy to pick up antibiotics and the pharmacist says no because they don't like the CEO of the pharmaceutical company?
It is an incredible anecdote.
It's crazy.
It shows that despite the digitization and the strict clinical framework, doctors still exercise immense personal discretion.
They are still the gatekeepers.
But what is truly revealing here is how the system handled this moral objection.
What do you mean?
Well, the doctor didn't block the patient from getting the medication entirely or kick him out of the clinic.
True.
Instead, he simply left a gap in the patient's prescription.
A gap.
Yeah. This allowed the creator to speak to a different doctor at the exact same clinic who had no such moral objections.
Oh.
To get that specific Tyson 2.0 strain filled.
It is absolute madness.
Wow.
But it perfectly highlights the flexibility and, honestly, the slight eccentricities of dealing with private clinics in 2025.
There are workarounds.
Yeah. If you hit a wall with one professional's personal opinions, the system is designed to allow you to find another path to get the medication you need.
Because it is a consumer-driven medical model.
Exactly.
The patient is no longer a passive recipient of whatever their local GP decides is best for them. They are an active participant.
They have options.
They are navigating different clinics, comparing formularies on MedBud, and even switching doctors within a single clinic to find the right fit for their specific needs.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
The big takeaway.
Right. When we zoom out from the terpenes, the clinic fees, the driving rules, and the apps, the core takeaway from Medicated Mate's experience is really about removing stigma.
Which is huge.
He talks quite openly about the heavy emotional toll of self-medicating on the black market.
It takes a toll.
You're dealing with shady characters, you have family and friends constantly questioning you or moaning at you, and you are made to feel like a druggie or a criminal just for trying to manage your own chronic symptoms.
It's degrading.
It is. And this new reality strips all of that away.
You are using a secure app.
Viewing a medical formulary.
Talking to licensed doctors.
And getting next-day legal delivery in the mail. It completely validates the patient's experience.
That validation is key. This deep dive isn't just about the mechanics of acquiring cannabis.
What do you think it's really about?
It is a powerful lesson in how rapidly regulations and societal norms can shift right under our noses.
Yeah.
Something that was heavily criminalized and deeply stigmatized just a few years ago is now managed through a sleek user interface on a smartphone.
It's amazing when you put it like that.
It teaches us why we should continually question the accepted limitations within our healthcare systems.
The barriers we assume are immovable, like the myth that this medication was impossible for normal people to get, they often crumble when we actually investigate the facts on the ground.
It changes your entire perspective on what is possible when you stop listening to outdated rumors on forums and look at what is actually happening today.
It certainly does.
And it leaves us with an intriguing concept to consider.
I'd love to hear it.
If a traditionally stigmatized substance can be so thoroughly transformed into a highly personalized, app-managed, next-day delivery medical service, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what other deeply entrenched, heavily stigmatized medical systems or treatments are on the verge of being completely consumerized and destigmatized in the next decade?